I make e-learning for a living. I think it's an essential part of any learning strategy. But now I'm going to tell you something that I probably shouldn't. Stop making e-learning. If this is your first time on the channel, my name is Matt Chertson. I'm the founder and chief learning officer of Better Everyday Studios, a learning development agency focused on helping companies have more impact with their employee training. Before I started this company, I was an instructor pilot in the US Air Force, and then I ran training and development at SpaceX. Let's get started. Wait, did I just say to stop making e-learning? Yeah, I kind of did. Now, let me be clear. I still think e-learning is essential. You are going to have online courses for employee training. But the problem is that over the past decade or so, e-learning has kind of become the tool that we use to solve all employee training problems. And now learning and development has often become this like hammer, just always walking around looking for a nail. And even if it finds a screw, it still tries to use the hammer to get it into the board. And so what I want to do today is walk through some of the alternatives to e-learning that I think you can find really helpful within your organization. Before we dive into some of those alternatives, let's look at why people use e-learning. What makes it so effective in the first place? And to me, there's two main things. There's first the fact that it's asynchronous. Individuals can access it whenever they want on their schedule. We live in a very asynchronous world now. It's what people expect, so that's super helpful. The second thing is that it's scalable. Because of the asynchronous nature, you make an online learning course, and then whether you're trying to teach 10 people, 100 people, 10,000 people, there's no additional resources that you're going to need. You don't need more trainers, you don't need more facilitators or anything like that. So those two factors, that it is asynchronous and scalable, make it incredibly helpful, and that's why it's become our primary tool. But there's several other options that will meet at least one of those two criteria that I think you can find effective. The first option that I love is creating a podcast, especially in instances where you're creating e-learning that is just pure knowledge transfer. It's just kind of like the basic high-level stuff. You're talking about the way the company thinks about culture, the way we treat each other, what it means to be a manager inside the organization. Those high-level ideas where you just kind of want people to have basic access and understanding of the information would be an excellent topic for a podcast that becomes so much more accessible for all the team members. It doesn't mean they need to sit down at their computer and focus just on this and click next a bunch of times. They can just have it on the background while they're doing their work, even at home or mowing the lawn or whatever it is that people do when they're not at work. It just makes it really, really accessible. Now, it does kind of raise the bar of you're gonna want to make sure that it's, exciting and that people are gonna want to access it. But now that's on all of us, right? Like we gotta make our stuff better. We have to make stuff that people find engaging. But a podcast is an excellent way to not just go to the normal, click through route with a voiceover. It gives access to the information in a different way that people will find more accessible. Another really simple thing you can do is just make an article, like a blog post, right? Not everything needs to be super engaging. Whether you have an internal company blog or newsletter or a Confluence space, there's some information, if it's, relatively simple and static, that you don't need to have a complex voiceover or an animated video or anything like that for. Just put it on a web page and make it so that people can access it. Honestly, if people are going to be needing to go to that information a lot, they're not going to want to go through the hassle of getting onto the LMS and finding the course and clicking through the course to the right place. An article is going to be a better strategy anyway if this is information that people are going to have to access regularly. Now, typically when you think of e-learning, we think of something that the learning and development team creates, right? You have an e-learning developer or instructional designer create something in Storyline, and though that's great, there's other ways that you can kind of get to a same outcome with user-generated content. Now, often this is a much simpler form of content where it doesn't have a lot of complex interactions or anything. Maybe it's as simple as having somebody just talk, one of the experts out in the company talk to a camera that you quickly record and edit. What this does, it's a really simple way for you to lower the development burden of your team, and it helps highlight people out in the business, which people get really excited about. They're excited about what they know and they want to share it with the rest of the company. So when you're dealing with, really technical things or specialized things or content that's only going to be valuable for a small part of the business, rather than going through all the time and effort of creating a traditional e-learning course, user-generated content is a much faster way to still get pretty engaging content at a fraction of kind of the production price. If you're creating content on source material that's going to change a lot, whether it's, company strategy or goals for the quarter or how you're handling a particular situation, then maybe it's just not worth the effort at all to make some kind of big e-learning that's going to be long-standing and be there for a while, but you still need to put something out there. And so a webinar is a great way to accomplish this because it's maybe not as asynchronous, but it's still super scalable. And it just provides an opportunity for a company leader or whoever it is that needs to get that information out to get in front of a camera, put it out to the rest of the company. They can consume it. Sometimes you can record it. And now you've gotten that information out there. Maybe it's not as clean and polished, but if the information is going to change quickly anyway or not have a lot of long-term value, then you're not going to want to spend a lot of time and energy on the development process anyway. This leads into another potential alternative to traditional e-learning that we've kind of already referenced is just straight video. There's nothing better sometimes than just getting straight recordings of people out in the business to talk about a particular problem that they solved or how they handled a certain issue or what the expectations are for a given operation, rather than having to come up with a script, create a voiceover, create slides, whatever else it is you want to do as part of your e-learning development process. Putting somebody in front of a camera, recording their conversation, recording what they want to get out, and then quickly editing it can be a whole lot faster and easier from the production side. The final alternative I want to talk about to traditional e-learning is simply books, right? I know it can seem kind of low tech or kind of simple maybe, but let's be honest. There's a lot of problems in the world that have already been solved. There are literally thousands, probably close to millions of books on things like manager development or leadership development. What makes a good leader? Why reinvent the wheel every time? If you want to just give resources to your employees on some basic topics, then having a list of vetted books that the company leadership thinks are important and either providing them in some way or simply suggesting that they go listen to these books can be a really great way to promote employee development at almost no production expense from your perspective, because all you need to do is talk to company leadership and say, do you agree with this list? Okay, yes, let's promote this to our employees. And it's a great way to show kind of the direction that the company wants to go in because we believe in the philosophy of these books, and then people can consume them and be developing themselves towards that philosophy without any additional effort on your part. So e-learning is still an essential part of any learning strategy, but we need to really start to develop some of the other tools in the toolbox. And all of the tools I talked about today are still the kind of tools that you'd use to solve those specific instances of genuinely asynchronous and scalable. There's obviously all the different kinds of on-the-job training or, live facilitation. There's tons of other tools. But when it comes to this specific instance of trying to solve problems in ways that are asynchronous and scalable, we have a lot of other options than just normal e-learning, and we need to start using them. So I hope you found this quick video helpful. If you did, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, and that way, I'll see you next time.